Hello friends, welcome to the next video in the series Exploration Toolbox. Today we'll be learning the theoretical concept GIS for mineral exploration, and today our teacher is Dr. V. Chandrasekharan. Dr. Chandrasekharan did his PhD from the Rajasthan University Jaipur and his MSc from the Annamalai University. He served the Geological Survey of India from 1977 to 2015 and retired as the director of the Geological Survey of India Training Institute in 2015. He has over 10 years of experience of digital mapping and GIS and map production in Geological Survey of India. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you and welcome Dr. Chandrasekharan.
Good morning, young aspirants. Have a great day. I am Dr. Chandrasekharan. A brief introduction about me, Dr. Amit Remekar. See, the topic today is GIS in mineral exploration. And as a disclaimer, I would like to say, being retiring from government service, I would always like to say that this is only for academic purpose and not for any commercial use, whatever the material presented here. Otherwise, if it is showing any map and other data, it is not for any commercial use. And I have also added some notes, footnote onto some of the slides. I will not go into the details of those footnotes. You can go through. Some link also I have given. You can refer those links for furthering your knowledge with the topic. So what are the field components when you take up mineral exploration? It starts with the reconnaissance survey again, backed by geophysics, photogeology, remote sensing, drainage base analysis, detail mapping. Then it is followed by sampling, whether it is a random sampling, graph sampling, or do sampling where you really fix the mineralization or mineralized zone. Then you carry out the detailed geochemical survey in a grid pattern or even stream sediment pattern with precise location with the aid of GPS on the map. Then further, once you delineate the shear zone or mineralized zone, whether it is in a linear pattern or any haphazard pattern, you do the pitching and trenching. Then that will be always followed by surveying with the precise location of those points where you have taken samples with plane table or theodolite or total station. Then laying the baseline and traverse lengths is part of the surveying job itself. Then it comes for drilling for detailed exploration. So what is the ultimate purpose of collecting the data? Then you go into the database management system. That is to transform the data what you have collected in the field into information. Information means which can be totally used by the end users. You have to convert the data into the information base, then that gets into the knowledge base, then finally the action. Here our action is we are going for mining. That is our ultimate aim. We are starting with data and going for mining. So you have the non-spatial information system, spatial information system. Only the spatial information systems, we have the GIS and other AutoCAD, CAD, CAM and other softwares are available. I was talking about other softwares which are available. One is GeoSoft. This software is widely used for mineral exploration purposes. It is competing with GIS, but the advantages of GIS to GeoSoft, you can know once you use both the softwares. Now I am not only talking about the cost effect, even the technical aspect of it also. You have another GeoReka that is predominantly for 3D data modeling, 3D data viewer, and even for the drilling and subsurface data, for interpreting those data, you can use GeoReka. Then there is a Rockware now that has already taken Surfer. In this, you do auto contouring and 3D surface mapping. It is very quick in Surfer. The thing is, the file formats, what you use in these softwares, whether it is GeoReka or GeoSoft or Rockware or any other software, you do some already processed file. That file format should be in such a format, it has to be interoperable or transferable to GIS automatically. If that file gets loaded into the GIS, then you have done a fine work, I would say. Again, another software is there, Rockworks, that is used by many of the mining agencies as well as exploration agencies. Again, that is for mining and other environmental industry, subsurface visualization as well as borehole database management. In this lecture session, we will cover only the application of GIS in mineral exploration. That will give you only a broad idea. In detail of that, you have to go only by constant usage of the software. GIS is a technology. It involves hardware because a lot of installation you have to make in your office for installing your GIS. Then the software tools you have to get installed. Once you have the background information, required information, the data handling is GIS is a powerful tool with which you can handle the data and you can improve your overall decision making. In mineral exploration, the decision making is you have to quickly arrive at the block or zone with which you are going to do detailed exploration or even going for drilling, so that you will not do any trial and error, you will not waste your time, it will be very cost effective and very quick also. Through the better access, you have to use the data asset, and here manipulation means data interpretation. And finally, you will have to visualize what best, which area is the best. You can start your drilling and other detailed exploration. After the data is completely, thoroughly fed into the GIS as well, you come to some interpretation or conclusion. GIS is the software that interacts with all the common data set, whatever set you have provided into the system in single file, that all the data are getting overlaid and interaction, or they say statistical computation as well as some visualization and some analysis. It takes place within the software itself. The tools with which we are very comfortable, then you can do miracle. Even some people can come out with new ideas also with, so it can interact with your data, it can do analysis, and finally you can come to the decision making part of it. That is what the GIS is intended for. So within GIS, what is vector data, what is raster data. Mainly the raster data is pixel based. It occupies a large space in your file system. There will be bit difficulties in handling those raster images in GIS, so that we convert most of the raster data into vector data. Vector data, the greatest advantage is the same amount of data is stored in the vector file, but with a reduced file format. At the same time, if you make it to any kind of enlargement, the resolution doesn't get distorted. You get the same resolution. You can enlarge a map to the whatever scale is possible. Even you have the data, the raw data of information in different scales. You can bring everything down to a particular scale for instant comparison. That is the advantage of having vector data to handle in GIS. So raster represents only cell, information in the cell. Even if you keep on enlarging, the data only will get enlarged, but it is not going to serve your purpose. Whereas the vector, even if you store the data in not only in one format, you have data in points, so that structural data and other mineralization location data are stored in point. When structural data like joint, foliation, shear zone, they are all stored in line layer, and the geology and other information which can occupy an area, that all will be stored in polygon layers. This is the advantage of using the data in different layers in vector format in GIS. It is analytical, it is less subjective, so that ifs and buts or permutation combination, trial and error are very less in interpretation after analyzing the data into GIS. That is why I call less subjective. It is more repeatable. Repeatable means the data or your analysis or your interpretation is more reliable, then it gets repeatable. You can use the data to different modeling, and you can again do a kind of detailed study with a different kind of modeling. The modeling part of it I will go. So what are the methodologies adopted in using GIS in mineral exploration? First of all, processing the data. Then you have to clearly identify the integration modeling. There are 2-3 kinds of modeling which have come, and it is in the process of evolving the science or the subject itself. You will be a party to even this evolution. You can choose a particular integration model with which the data which you are using, the area which you are working is specifically can be used for one kind of modeling that may not be applicable for other areas. Like you are doing for gold, you are doing for copper, you are doing for other mineralization, or area of Bihar or area of Rajasthan, area of Karnataka, Depending upon the data set and data availability, you have to choose the model. Please remember which model you are choosing. You have to decide according to the data set, according to your experience also. We have two kinds of, predominantly have two kinds of data modeling. One is knowledge driven, another is data driven. You know very well what is knowledge driven. Already you have some information because you have some old working, already some data available with which you know this area used to be further explored or extension zones are to be further explored, you know very well. You are doing the work based on that, on your already available knowledge. What is the data driven? See, you have some knowledge, but you have a lot of data. These data are to be put into interpretation for delineating a detailed zone for further exploration, that is data driven modeling. I am just giving an illustrative map where the GIS has been used for gold investigation. Is one of the contribution of the GSI. I would acknowledge them for using this illustrative diagram. I won't call it a map because it doesn't have coordinates, it doesn't have scale. That is the way we have to give the data or present the data to those to whom I am not authorized to give. I think you understand this part. So you have the data from field geology. You have data from regional structures. You have data from stream sediment, other geochemical sampling. You have geophysical data. You have other heavy mineral data. Everything you have got. So you make different sets of layers. One is geological factor layer, then geochemical factor layer, then geophysical factor layer, and the other heavy mineral, the other which are the pathfinder minerals for finding out gold or pathfinder elements for finding either nickel, vanadium or cobalt, or even for base metals, that kind of layer. And likewise, so many other layers also you can make. So that means you start with your raw data, then you have derived layers of evidence. Evidence means you already know these are evident for finding out mineralization in this particular area. Then you make the intermediate factor maps. This is analyzed part of it. You are arriving at this third category after doing some analysis. That is called factor maps. Then finally, after all interpretation of all the data, you finally arrive at a favorability map. The favorability map is more or less you have arrived at some conclusion where you can go for detailed work later. So exploration for mineral deposit, it is a task. It is not an easy thing. It is not a guesswork. It is not an imagination. It has to take part in a very systematic and calculated way. There only you can achieve your goal with the least expenditure to your employer, as well as even the great satisfaction of the people who are working also. Sizable area you cover on a small scale map, that is the beginning of the work. They have to arrive at the small area from the large area, that is the part of mineral exploration, starting from mapping to mineral exploration. Then finally you arrive at the target areas. Then you integrate all the data into one system, one file, one software or one file rather to understand the complete aspect of all the data involved in it. Then instead of doing manually, which is very highly subjective, to arrive at final target, you use some other tools. One of the tools is GIS. For a typical mineral targeting, you have the reference database that is very, very essential. You cannot have a data without its location embedded on the file format itself. You are taking a data, any data, whether geophysical, geochemical or any data, it has to have geo-reference, then only you can take it into GIS. Otherwise the data will not go into any utility part and your final interpretation or modeling part of it. And you can make it very quantitative also, all the data, what are the data or units of analysis, or you can bring them everything into one unit also, so that the interpretation will be very fast. One cannot be in ppm, one cannot be in ppb, like that geophysical also units of data, geophysical results, it has to be brought down into one unit. That will be better for you. Only the geological scale, GIS can automatically transfer to any scale, but these data, embedded data in the attribute tables, it cannot make the changes. That one has to be very careful on. Then finally you arrive at a favorability map. That is our aim of using the GIS tool before even coming to the further part of exploration like drilling and going into the extension areas. There you have to only the empirical models which are authoritative and which are backed by a solid database. With empirical models only you can go for further work. The empirical model mostly are data driven. You already have data and data sets which I have earlier covered in this topic. With those data, by giving the input of those data, you can, with even statistical analysis, you can get into the GIS modeling. In GIS modeling, by like all other softwares, it has statistical computation, statistical interpretation, everything formula of them are totally embedded in the software. You can simply apply those programs by click of the button. Then from knowledge driven to data driven, you are transferring. In that, there are some logics which you have to use, of which the final one is fuzzy logic. I will come to this fuzzy logic aspect at the end of the lecture. Then there are some notes which are given in the end of some of the slides also. These such notes also you can cover, and some are linked also. With the URL link is there, you can get into those links and you can develop your knowledge further from this. Now I am taking a small example where the GIS played a major role in delineating an extension area of one of the copper mineralized belt in India. In this copper belt map, it is a prior map with showing the geology. It is showing the contact also. It is a classified lithology it is showing, as well as it is showing the copper deposit locations in deep brown points, where the department has already worked and they have explored in detail, and they have got the data, both the 3D data as well as surface data, with which they want to find the extension areas here. All these places they want to go to the extension areas where we can do further detailed work or detailed exploration or detailed drilling. This is the first map. Then we are going to apply GIS to this area. How we will arrive at a favorability map, you will be really able to appreciate by the end of this lecture. So to this map, now what all you need? You need a geological map. You need bedrock geochemical anomaly data map. If you have ground geophysical data, it is a must. You have to use the ground geophysical data. Then airborne geophysical data also is required. Regional structures, because many of the mineralization are structure controlled mineralization are there. So they play a major role in arriving at a conclusion. So regional structure you need. And then prospect deposit have to be used to check the validity of calculating the weight of the analysis. Here, which one will give more weightage? That aspect one has to decide by the end of the modeling. Simply all models are not same. I told you, in some models, the bedrock geochemical anomaly will have more weightage. Some you have geophysical data will give more weightage. Some will give regional structures will give more weightage. Instead of giving 20, 20, 20, 20 to 100, you may give some 30, remaining distribute to 100. That kind of weightage also you can give. One of the ways of interpretation, which way you interpret, that you have to decide by experience and by your guidance of your seniors, you will come to know. And framework of the methodology of taking the data into GIS modeling. So you establish the exploration model, which I have already clearly told you. There are 2-3 models or more models, and models are even keep evolving, and new models are also coming. Which model you have to use? You have to finally arrive at your own conclusion. That build the spatial database is the data you have to get into GIS or upload into the GIS, that you have to make in. That is the background work you will have to make. Then choose a methodology. I think either knowledge driven or data driven. Initially start with knowledge driven. You may get some ideas. Like I told you, we cannot be do this for spending money. You can do this for only thinking. Then finally you go for data driven. That's what I would also always recommend. Then the process of data according to the methodology, you will have to arrive at your conclusion by only way of experience. Then finally our aim is to come with the data of producing the favorability map to your employer, to your boss, to your seniors, taking an example of copper mineralization, our aim is to come to a favorable copper mineralization map with which we can go for further work. You know, this where the copper has been mobilized, this data also we'll have to take other than lithology and structural data. Then anomalous data you are taking. Wall rock alteration plays a major role here. So after building the spatial model using this geology with bedrock geochemistry, geophysics, and mineral deposit prospects, you develop layers of lithology, layers of boundaries, layers of shear zone, layers of secondary and third generation shears, fault, fold, lineaments, then followed by your geochemical data, geophysical data, and the known other mineral prospect or previous working or boson area. Those things also you take. Then you decide the methodology, with methodology you are going to go, data-driven methodology you are taking. Then you have to process the data by buffering those data into the model which you are using. Once you come to some kind of advancement in your own analysis, you will know how far your data, how far your interpretation is. You can say with confidence. See, 50 meter from the shear line is better, or 250 meter from the secondary shear line better, or 100 meters from the third generation shears are better, or some distance from the ground geophysical anomalous data, which is better. These the kind of final conclusion will come only but at the end of the analysis or end of the modeling. So the buffer distances we will have to calculate by the way of using different modeling purposes. Then extraction of the bedrock geochemical analysis you already have. Then we have some other sympathetic values also. If it is base metal, we have some. Along with copper, what are the sympathetic other values of other elements? You know very well. So wherever those elements, suppose wherever these nickel elements are more, there the copper elements, copper mineralization are high. If you have that kind of correlation in statistics, those areas you can take it for immediate usage. See, the combining the relevant layers and taking the evidence to generate intermediate factor, that only you are coming to the intermediate factor maps. Namely, lithological, geochemical, structural, geophysical, other intermediate factor maps you arrive at. Then you take the integration modeling, all the layer maps you are taking into superimposing over one another. Even the attribute data which are stored in the attribute files of GIS, they will play a major role in arriving at in a final interpretation of your data driven. So I told you what is the disadvantages of knowledge driven. It gives definitely a very good idea even before going for data driven. Many of the data driven interpretation are purely based on knowledge driven data only, but the final analysis you have to go for data driven analytical method. With this, in this particular area which I have taken, where I have shown you the earlier mineral explored area of the same area, I am reproducing here. Now you see the difference. Only those points where copper mineralized, those points were only in the center. These points you have seen those copper zone or copper bore area where they have already worked, you know. Now this is the favorability map arrived after carrying out the modeling in GIS, and they have come to the low prospectivity or moderate prospectivity or high prospectivity map. They have already arrived. The yellow part, they will not go for immediate further work, definitely they will not go. Then progressively with this deeper in color, from light brown to deeper yellow, this is the low prospectivity. When you go higher to the red zone, these are the zones where you can really go for further work for copper or detailed exploration in this particular terrain, so that you can immediately start the drilling activity here. And within them also, I have clearly identified one zone, which is circled, the area like this. This is for immediate search for copper. This is how the GIS plays a major role in arriving at the favorability map for further detailed work for mineral exploration. It differs from area to area and from mineralization to mineralization. So you can also say what are favorable and what are unfavorable on the ground, based on which you have come to some conclusion. Then there is another logic also you can use, that is called fuzzy logic. Fuzzy logic, you assign numbers. For least favorable is 0 and most favorable is 1. It is a gradation only, gradation between the most certain and most uncertain. This also you can apply where it is really required in a particular area only, but not in all the models. You need not have to use fuzzy language. You have to use only fuzzy language of only most required modeling only. So as a conclusion, I would say the zones of high probability or high prospectivity remain identical, even irrespective of JAS models applied earlier, but identical disposition of highest prospectivity zones and prospective site, as well as any standard JAS method what you have used, you come to delineate the target area for such detailed exploration of your data analysis. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the video. I invite you all to please visit the Mineral Exploration Academy website and register yourself. The registration is free and registration is open to students, teachers, professionals, or anybody who is interested in mineral exploration. The registration will also provide you an access to be able to ask questions from our experts and also provide an opportunity for established experts to answer and interact with the students. The registration form is available on the Mineral Exploration Academy website. I would also encourage you to look at the editorials and opinion sections and visit the student question and answer section at the bottom here. In the student question and answer section, the questions asked by the students are being answered by our experts. Our experts are the top people in the field, and it would be a wonderful learning opportunity for the students for probably the questions that occurred to you but you could not ask, or to review questions what have occurred to other people and get the answers the different experts are providing. Thank you so much, and I look forward to interacting with you a lot more.